Alright gang, welcome back to Affinity Photos. So this is going to be the first of many that we're going to do for live edits, where we're looking at working with a raw photo all the way to finished. And we're going to try to do this in under 10 minutes, just to show you how to work with a raw photo all the way from beginning to end. So let's go ahead, and the three things that I want to focus on during these lessons is going to be the use of light, the use of depth, and the use of overlay masks. Now, you've got this in your downloads. So this image was a very simple orb that I took there. I stuffed some Christmas lights in it, and you'll see that I took it with about a 1.7 f-stop on a 25mm lens at 1/125th of a second. So I got a lot of light. I got a very shallow depth of field because this is in focus and everything else isn't. So I'm actually really happy with how it turned out straight out of the camera. Now, we're going to come over to the overlay tab, and you'll see that this is the master overlay. Now, so this means whatever adjustments you make here will be applied everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to edit, undo. What I want to do is I want to apply some edits to the background, but not have them affect the foreground. Now, in order to do this, the easiest way for me to do this, let's go ahead now, let's grab the overlay brush. And what we're going to do now, we're going to paint this. Now I'm going to paint the whole thing. Now there are other ways to do this. I will give you that. But I'm going to show you the way that makes the most sense if you're learning how to do this. Now, because I don't want the orb affected, I'm grabbing my eraser. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the hardness. And now my job is to erase out the piece that I do not want affected by the adjustments I'm about to make. And that to me would be this center orb. Now, if you get a little bit crazy with it and you go outside the lines, don't sweat it. Believe me, these modifications are not that specific. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn the hardness up just a little bit more here, up to 100. And I'm really going to hug the edge of this thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, you see I kind of went outside the lines on that? Watch this. You can always come back in with the repaint. Turn down your brush by hitting that Alt key. And you can always repaint it right on back in there. All right, no harm, no foul. So, coming back up, finishing my erasing. All right, now let's take a look at the layer. This overlay now is the brush overlay, which means everything that is red will be affected by what I'm about to do. So if I come back down here now and I start to adjust the exposure, you'll see now as I adjust the exposure, it doesn't affect the orb. This is absolutely phenomenally powerful. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crank down the black point a little bit. And I'm just going to play with it and see what I can get out of it. There we go, because I think it's a little bit dark. Yep, so I don't want to make it too dark. And then I want to keep the brightness. Let's go ahead and crank that down just a little bit there. All right, that looks good. Now, this part here, I want this heavily saturated, but I don't want the background heavily saturated. So let's go ahead and turn down the saturation just slightly. Ooh, maybe not that far. Now let's turn it up a little bit. There we go. Change my mind. All right. Now, I kind of like that. So now we've kind of got a warm vibe to this. I'm going to go ahead and on the white balance for this area, I'm going to go ahead and turn it down so it's just ever so slightly. Let's go and make it just a little more yellow. There we go. That way we got the orange, we got the yellow. I'm actually quite happy with that. So I think that in terms of raw manipulation, I think we're pretty good. Now you'll notice that all these others are done. They're grayed out. Now, if I go back to the master, now I can start messing with some of these others. I don't want to in this edit. I think we're in pretty good shape. So I think overall, I'm quite happy with that. Let's go ahead and develop this out. And now developing is a fancy way of saying making it into a JPEG. And now I like to begin my edit with a crop. So I'm going to come down here to my crop tool. And in the mode, I'm going to make this a 6x4. I'm going to grab the corner here. And I'm going to crop it until I've got it probably right about here. Because I think this is garbage. Okay, now edit, undo. I want to do it again here. I'm going to grab there we go. I don't need all of that. I think that that's garbage as well. I really like this to be on the third. Yep, I'm actually much happier with that. All right, perfect. So we've developed it. We've cropped it. We've made sure our composition is good. And you'll see how I'm really playing with the distance here because this is very vague. This is very secure. Now, once we're in the foreground, I'm going to come up here now and I'm going to grab my selection brush. I'm going to right bracket key this thing up. I'm going to make sure I'm on add here in the context toolbar. And I'm going to select the orb. You see, I'm just brushing in the selection with the marching ants. Now, we're going to show you how to do this here. I'm not going to be terribly scientific. Usually I would do this with my pen tablet, but I'm not cheating. I'm going to work right alongside you here. I'm going to make sure snap to edges is on. And we're going to get pretty close to those edges. I know down here it's going to have a little bit of problem. Okay. You see how it's kind of missing some of that there? It pulled in that light? That's fine. Let's come down here. Grab your selection brush and subtract. Now I'm going to shrink this down here. And I think that that's pretty good. Affinity did a pretty nice job. Yep, I'd say that's close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit more here. All right, now if you get stuck or something, you can certainly turn snap to edges off and you can do a manual selection. You see how I'm able to add and subtract manually now because I have snap to edges off. All right, so if you're following along at home with me, we went through, we selected our orb using the selection tool. Now, with the selection tool, we're going to refine. Now watch this. Affinity is going to find the edges of this thing. I'm going to crank that up just a little bit there, and I'm going to paint that in. And now they're going to hug the edges. That looks pretty good. Okay, doing it again. Looks good. All right, now watch this. This is key to the trick. Go to Output as a new layer and apply. Now, it doesn't look like anything happened, right? Let's see what happened to the layers panel. The background is still there. Boom, background. And now this thing, don't do this at home, is now a second orb. Now I'm going to undo the transformation there. All right, now the reason that I did that, in the description for this lesson, you'll find a link to our Affinity flare brushes. I'm going to be using these in the next portion of light. So let's go ahead and go to Pixel, drop a pixel layer in between the background and this newly created layer, right? We're going to go ahead and we're going to practice good naming habits and call this orb. Now on the pixel layer, let's grab the brush. Let's go to the brush menu and in basic brushes, right? Grab this one that's real soft at about 128 pixels and crank this bad boy up as big as it'll go. You see how it's almost the size of that orb? And then change up the color to be somewhere in the orangish. And this is going to be a little bit of guess and check. You see what we're doing here with this? And we're just going to pop this thing into existence right about here. And boom. There we go. And now we have a little bit of an orb. Now, if you wanted to make that a little bit bigger, here's a trick you can do because it's a pixel layer. Take it and expand it out and then reposition it. Look at that. Now this thing has a little bit of a glow. Now, if it's a little bit too bright for you, with a pixel layer, you can crank down the opacity a little bit to control the amount of light. And you can also begin to change the blend modes associated with this so that you can get just that right look. I kind of like that one on the color dodge. It's a little bit extreme, but I like it. You see how it's kind of got that red? Awesome. Now, let's do one more. We're going to come down. We're going to add a new pixel layer. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop this one back behind the pixel. No, not inside the pixel, but behind it. We're going to call this one Flare. All right, perfect. Now, with the Flare brush selected, come over to your brushes. And we've got the link there for the download for the 5 Flare brush pack. This is definitely in that brush pack. Make sure your brush is selected. And this is going to be, I believe, the 5th flare in there. Now crank this bad boy up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this guy right about here. I'm going to go just like that. And boom. All right, now you're saying, what just happened there? Now watch this. Take it, crank it down ever so slightly, and look at that nice effect that's kind of created with that. That thing is awesome. All right, and again, if you wanted to play the blend mode game, you absolutely could with it. Let's go ahead and see what we can get out of it. Kind of like that. That one's kind of cool. Kind of like that. Oops, it looks like I double tapped that. Yep, I did. All right. So we're in pretty good shape there. So you can go ahead and play with the blend modes. I kind of like that one, actually. Let's go ahead and go with a hard light on that. Now, when I say we're playing with the idea of depth, you see how this is in the foreground. This is in the background. The light kind of emanates through. And then this gives off a little bit of a glow. So let's go see what we did here. We got the pixel layer with the color dodge. We got the flare layer with the hard light. We've done a selection to highlight the orb. And we developed the background in terms of a RAW file all the way to JPEG. The only thing left to do now is go to File, Save. Let's go ahead and save this in our file here. Oh, we'll go right there. And I'll go ahead and make my file downloadable. Feel free to follow along there in addition to that. And then let's go ahead now and export. All right, it's saving. It's taking the long road home here. Now, depending on what you see there on your monitor might be calibrated a little bit different than mine for colors. Go with what works for you, but you see all the cool things that we were able to do in the short amount of time we had. And we're thinking, and we're going to export. And let's crank that down to about 85%, right? All right, about 3 megabytes is good. Nobody needs a 20 megabyte JPEG. All right, and we're going to put down finished JPEG. All right, so thank you for taking a look at this. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Your subscription means a lot there because it allows me to keep making videos like this. Give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to see some other things in Affinity Photo, you got questions on what was done, or you want to see more raw development to finished product, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Other than that, love to see what you do. Go ahead, hit us up at 7th Season Studios on Facebook. And on behalf of 7th Season Studios, Jeremy Hazel saying thank you for taking a look at our video, and we'll see you in the next one.